privileged to introduce today someone I've come to regard as a good friend, someone I've come to know over a matter of months, and we've become very close in terms of kindred spirit. We have a lot in common in my mind in terms of our tastes, in terms of spiritual concepts and cute things that we've discussed and good things like that. But I'm going to introduce Austin Zulauf. He's a vice president of Zulauf in North America. And he's going to be sharing his story today of his experiences, his lessons, some gems and some good bits in there, some wisdom, and what he's learned from his remarkable life so far. He's only 37 years of age, and he's had highs and lows and learned so much out of these experiences that it's quite exciting. It's like going on a roller coaster ride with him. And he lives in Kentucky in the USA, and he lives there with his wife and children, and that's just across the pond from us because I'm in the UK and he's in the US, so it's quite exciting to be talking this way. Austin has been the #1 earner in 3 companies, built an international team of 34,000 people in just 1 year. Spoke with a Fortune 500 companies many times, which is pretty awesome, I think. Wow. Retired over 600 families around the world so they can pursue their passions in life. And I mean, that's pretty awesome all on its own. And he has a career earning approaching 10 million US dollars, and has the financial independence to spend time with his family, with his wife Toretta, Braden, and Kayla, his daughter. And they have just a lovely family unit. For me, that's a great thing because that's all about warmth. He's also a published author of this particular book, which is thoroughly enjoyable, Acting Classes, and it's a nice, easy read, I know, because I've just read it. And so anyway, it's lovely to be with you today, Austin, and I'm thrilled to just be, connecting across the ponds. And so hello and hi, you're looking very nice.
My pleasure. I appreciate you having me, Christina.
You're welcome. Now, I'd like to talk to you today about your story, and I've given you a bit of an intro in there. And I'd like to share with the audience some of the things that you've learned in the process of your story, which I've come to appreciate from reading your book. And you started off, and you had quite a few things happen in your early years, which when I was reading it, it was like, ooh, that's pretty tough going. Because you grew up in Edmondson, in Kentucky, on a farm in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we call it in the sticks, but in the middle of nowhere. And you were around about sort of, I'm going to ask you, you were 10 and living in this sort of, this is where your story starts. What was it like growing up there, and how was life in general?
Yeah, I grew up in the middle of nowhere. We call it the sticks here too. It was in the hills here in Kentucky. And I grew up on Otter Gap Road. And so, I mean, I was related to pretty much everybody up both sides of the street. I remember we had, I think it was like 70 something acres. We grew tobacco, we grew corn. On one part of the farm, we had animals, chickens and things like that. So, I mean, it was really, it was sheltered. I had to do things. I had to work. I helped bale hay and strip tobacco at an early age. And so, it was looking back on it, it was probably pretty boring by most people's standards, so.
But it gave you a good work ethic, because I mean, obviously when you work on a farm, and I'm surrounded by farms where we live, but you help out with farms and things, and I have in the past, it gives you a great work ethic because you have to work quite hard. I mean, I can't relate to the tobacco because we don't have tobacco farms, but generally it's amazing. Now, I noticed in your book that certain events happened at the age of 10, your parents split up, and then you had a very major event for me because your dad's house burnt down, as I understand it. Can you tell us a bit more about that time in your life and obviously how you experienced it?
So my parents split up when I was 10, and then I was to and from. I was with one parent 1 week, one parent the next week, back and forth. I actually developed agoraphobia over that time, where I was just afraid to leave the house. I would have major anxiety attacks, whenever it was time for me to leave the house at all. But I was fortunate enough whenever I was about 11 going on 12 for my house to burn down. And I say fortunate because then we were able to move to an actual city, so to speak. It was kind of sort of like a city, Bowling Green, Kentucky. And there's a whole interesting story that I can't get into about the house burning down. But whenever it burned down, my dad didn't have the proper insurance, and my mom was already broke. And so whenever I was with my mom, I was living in, like a single wide trailer right by the train tracks that was falling to pieces and that sort of thing was one place that we lived. We lived a new place. It seemed every month. And like she was some sort of a squatter, but it was really interesting. But when my dad's house burned down, then he was broke. And so, he was living in some of the worst apartment homes in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And so it was weird going from that, what would probably be considered upper middle class to being really broke and strapped, and neither one of my parents knowing how they're going to make it. It was really, I don't know, it was weird. My parents had split up. I had all this instability, and then I turned to the streets because the first people I met were drug dealers. The first people that I met whenever we moved to Bowling Green were part of a gang. They were selling drugs, but they had all sorts of money. And so I imagined as a young man, I was looking for a sense of family and belonging. And I kind of missed being spoiled like I was as an only child whenever I was growing up. So about age 12 is whenever I started doing some dumb stuff, selling drugs, associating with gang members, that sort of thing. Age 12.
That's very relatable, isn't it? Because quite frankly, this is how it happens in urban areas, and particularly, dare I say it, for boys, especially. But girls get to hang in the streets. I know I did in my growing up. It was I come from a working class background, so I can relate to that entirely. But we just hung the streets quite literally, and anything was up to mischief, left, right, and centre, literally. And so I think that people relate to that, and then getting into the drug scene, is obviously easy, isn't it? Because you as you said, you're looking for belonging and everything else. But then you've got this situation happen where this was quite a travesty, because I remember reading this and thinking, oh my gosh, because a good friend of yours, Corey, actually he died, didn't he, within this group scenario. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And because I remember reading that you'd learned quite a lot out of the experience with the gangs, Corey's death, and everything else. So perhaps you can elaborate on that a bit more, please.
So, it's interesting that we're doing this though, Christina, because I've talked to a lot of high performers in the direct selling profession and network marketing. A lot of these people that are people's, gurus and mentors and coaches that have made millions, tens of millions, even some hundreds of millions of dollars. And a lot of them weren't born, well, I don't think any of them were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. And they all went through struggles, and a surprising amount of them were involved in the streets to some degree. I don't know if most of them were involved in it to the point that I was, but some of them were. I've talked to some of them, and they share this similarity. But I'll get into it, at the risk of sounding, brash, I guess. You can pretty much watch any hardcore gangster movie, Goodfellas or whatever, and the life they lived was, it was similar to the life that I was living. But we'll go ahead and we'll touch on Corey a little bit. So I had mentioned that I had gotten involved with gangs, and we had gotten to the point where not only were we selling drugs, we were robbing opposing drug dealers. And I lived in Kentucky. This particular happenstance happened in Tennessee. So I had a buddy of mine who's now in prison for murder one. Him and another buddy of mine got this girl to go in, and they set up these opposing drug dealers with this girl. And she was befriending these guys, and she was supposed to let us know when they weren't there. And she let us know, hey, they're not going to be there on such and such day, da 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 da. Everybody's out, they're going out of town, blah, blah, blah. And so we go there, and whenever we go, we go there with the understanding that she's going to be the only person there, right? So as we go in, it starts a shootout. And so Corey was out front. He got shot in the chest 4 times. So it was Corey, Mike, Joe, Aaron. So there's 5 of us. And anyway, long story short, we returned fire. Corey wound up dying in my buddy that's in prison right now in his Eddie Bauer. And it was really stupid because we were going there with the intent of maybe each of us getting a couple $1,000s and maybe some drugs. It was just it was stupid. It was something that, looking back in hindsight, um, you know, we had no business doing. And anyway, so I don't really know what I learned from that specific instance. You would think that would be enough to jar someone into living a decent life. I remember whenever we made it back to another buddy of mine's house that we went to after all that went down. We told his mom that he was eating macaroni and cheese, he was eating dinner, and that he'd be home in the morning. And of course, he wasn't. So the whole night was just insane. Whenever something like that happens, um, you remember the oddest details, and then some details you completely block out. So it's wild. But anyway, like I said, that's something that I don't think that wasn't the pivotal moment for me that turned me uh, to living as a decent human being. And I never wanted to hurt anybody, by the way. Even whenever I was involved in robbing folks, selling drugs, I never wanted to hurt anyone. I wanted a sense of belonging. I wanted a sense of family, brotherhood. I wanted to not have to worry about money, because I grew up with a family intact, upper middle class, for the most part. We didn't start off upper middle class, but we worked our way to that by the time I was about 10. So to have all that taken away, that's what I was searching for. I think it's important that people understand that.
I like that. Being in life is what makes people real, right? And you speak from the heart. So having had a real experience, then bringing that back to reality for everybody out there gives them the confidence that they could have messed up and they can find themselves, because an awful lot of people think they've messed up and that's it, they're done, and they never come back in and say, oh, I'm going to rock on and get with life. So some of these principles and some of these stories that you share are very, very valuable, because now you're VP, you're a man of honor, you've got a fabulous family. I warmed you enormously. You're one of my all-time favorites as a person. You're so good and genuine and speak from the heart. So, when I'm reading your book, I'm like, wow, this is so cool. I mean, this guy's come from here to here to here to here, and he's come up this progression of cool developments. And I respect that. And I think a lot of people would respect that too. So then I realized when I was reading this and getting into your story, this incident happened, okay, but then you've got your mum helping you out. She's a very positive influence in your life right now, Sandy, and I know she was back then. And I was reading about how she was in combined insurance, and that she helped you to get into combined insurance and get you on the sales path and your entrepreneurial path. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about that in your own words, and what you discovered as that sort of stepping stone into your life, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, just since we brought up Corey and that incident in Tennessee and all of that, and and I've said a couple of times now that you would think that would be enough to set someone on the right path, but it wasn't. For example, it was Corey, and I honestly can't remember if it was Mike or Joe that was right behind Corey. I'm thinking it was Joe, but anyway, Mike's the one in prison, murder one. So he was a good friend of mine. He was messing around with some lady. Her husband came home and killed him. He killed the husband and all this stuff. And there was just all this craziness happening around me. And all the while, my mom, she was an executive for an insurance company, and their whole philosophy was the PMA philosophy, right? The positive mental attitude philosophy, a state of mind that continues to seek, find, and execute ways to win regardless of situation or circumstance. So she got with them when I was about 12 years old, 12 or 13. And so the whole time she's trying to save my life by, ingraining these principles in me. And I wasn't trying to hear it because I had my own thing going on, right? And so, with Corey and with Mike and with, all the selling drugs, robbing folks, trips out of town, just all this crazy stuff, it finally came to, and I don't think I've shared this before, not publicly. It finally came to a head whenever I was 18. I moved out of town to Lexington, Kentucky, because we were all selling dope to the same people, and Lexington was a new market. And so, I brought a couple guys with me, brought a crew with me, and we kind of took over a little area. And I got to the point where things were just happening so fast. I mean, I went out of town with one of my top guys. My door got kicked in. We found out it was by one of my runners because, anyone that's ever been involved in stuff like this, the streets talk. So someone from the streets came to me and told me what happened because someone couldn't keep their mouth shut. And so I wound up going to a place called Charter Ridge, it's a mental rehabilitation center. And it could be, you could go there for lots of different reasons. I went there for extreme anxiety and paranoia because just living in that life so long, my adrenal glands, my adrenal receptors or whatever were probably just fried. I was constantly around just the worst people. I mean, I'd be in a room with someone that I knew for a fact wanted to kill me, had a gun on them, and had an opportunity, and I had to act like I didn't know because then the ruse is up, and then we got to do something about it. So I mean, it was just it's crazy to even imagine living that lifestyle. But I mentioned that because the moment that really, I think I decided that I need to really turn this around, like the catalyst, the straw that broke the camel's back, was I was in Charter Ridge because I had such a bad anxiety attack. I was sitting on my couch in the house and I was shaking so bad the couch was vibrating and hitting the wall. I mean, I used to have horrible anxiety, and you can't show that when you're in that environment. So it was just like me and the girl I was dating and my top guy were the only people that knew that I was like on the brink of a nervous breakdown. And I suspected everybody, you know what I'm saying? And so anyway, I go into Charter Ridge, I check myself in, and it's not cheap. At the time, it was $500 a day. And I'm in there and I go to group therapy, and there's a young lady in there that still remember her name, still remember what she looks like. Um, and I knew her, and I had gotten her hooked on cocaine. And she didn't do it whenever I met her, and I was really good at getting people hooked. They didn't do it or do it often. I'd give them some for free. It was great. They'd come back. I diluted it a little bit more each time until they were just spending all that they had to come back and get more. And it was crazy to hear her story because she shared her story even though she knew who I was. And she had two kids. She was a pretty girl whenever I met her, and she looked horrible whenever she was in there. She was shooting up cocaine, and she had missed a vein, and her whole arm was bruised and everything. And she didn't tell anyone who I was, even though I was her supplier. And I thought, wow, I ruined this woman's life. She'll never be the same, and it'll never be okay. And that was when I said, I never meant to hurt anybody in this. I was just meaning to make money. I was just meaning to find, find family, find a place because I felt like I didn't belong. And it turns out I'm definitely hurting somebody. It's different when you know that you're not doing something good, but it really didn't dawn on me, like it didn't dawn on me that I was a father until I saw my daughter. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's whenever I decided to get involved in combined insurance company myself at the age of 19. I had turned
Let's
19.
just check back a second. So that all of this happened in your childhood, because up until 19, we can regard it as a childhood. All of these incredible things happened to you to form you and destroy you all at the same time, which is pretty cool. Form you, and you formed into this person. Now we're going to jump into combined insurance, which then you become this salesman and all these wonderful things happen. This is incredibly powerful as it steps up, and I want to emphasize that because I'm going to say that this is a powerful part of the story. So you get into combined insurance. So yes, please tell us a little bit more about what happened next.
Well, the whole time I was busy being an idiot, running around doing dumb stuff, not thinking and just living in the moment. My mom was still trying to save my life, impressing upon me these principles of combined insurance company. And So finally, I was ready. I had seen enough by the time I was 19 that I knew I was going to go one of two ways in life, either dead or in prison. And neither one of those looked attractive to me. I mean, it was crazy. I was driving down Bluegrass Parkway and got pulled over with a quarter kilo of like the best cocaine in the world, and a half pound of marijuana that I just to smoke in my car. And I let the state police search my car because I was so arrogant. I just knew they weren't going to find it. They didn't find it. I mean, there were so many close calls. I could tell you like dozens. But I knew I was headed either dead or in jail. It's the only possibilities. And so I met Peter Layton, the vice president of Combined Insurance Company. I met Peter back in 2002 in Bardstown, Kentucky. And I asked him, you know, if he could just put his faith in me, and if he could do it one time, he'd never regret it. And I got started with Combined, and it changed everything. I was so used to making a lot of money. I didn't have a problem with work ethic. And I felt so bad about the life that I had been living and who I had become and the things that I had done, that I think I worked so hard almost as a form of self-abuse. I mean, I'd make it to the 8:30 morning meetings, and I might work until 2 a.m, you know, and I did that often. And I broke every record they had for sales and management. I made a sales manager my 8th week in the field. I was doing so well, they offered me the position of divisional sales instructor within my first year and a half, making me the second youngest sales instructor in the company's almost 100-year history. The youngest was the same age as me, but just a couple weeks younger, and he wound up being the president of the company. So yeah, it changed my life. It saved my life, and it gave me the direction that I needed to, you know, put me back on track where I needed to be. And Combined Insurance Company and W. Clement Stone's teachings and philosophies really helped to sculpt me into the person that I am today.
I love that. We're going to talk a little bit about W. Clement Stone and the teachings, and obviously you met Zig Ziglar and cool things like that. But just to sort of praise that in, yeah, very relatably, I said to you this story smacks very similarly, even though you're in the US and we're in the UK. You know, I met Nick when I was quite young, and we were living a very similar life in a lot of ways. So you over in the US are thinking, hey, this is just a US problem. It's not, it's a UK problem. And, you know, we were on the street, a lot of things happened to us, all sorts of things that we shouldn't have been in places before I'd met him that we shouldn't have been, and stuff happens, you know, but it does evolve a person. And there's a lot of people out there feeling very similarly because they came from similar places, right? And then they have this turning over the new leaf. You getting in Combined Insurance. This getting quite exciting now, because now you're using all of that pent up energy and all the good stuff into what you're doing, and then you become one of the top earners. By the way, Nick did exactly the same thing. By the way, exactly the same thing. And he was a top earner and a high flyer, and he was 20 something, yeah, 20. So it's quite interesting. So I'm liking this story a lot because it's like very relatable. But yeah, so you met with W. Clement Stone and Zig Ziglar and some of these wonderful people that we all know to be the cornerstone of our understanding of positive mental thinking, if you like, thought thinking. Tell us a little bit more about that experience, because that must have been pretty incredible, you know, because obviously you're around that sort of environment.
Yeah. I mean, you know, from the time I was about, 12 or 13, whenever mom got started with them up until I was 19 and I got started with them, she used to drag me to all sorts of meetings all over the place. And she won every award there was with the company. I mean, she just broke all sorts of records. No one could do what she did. No one in the company could do what she did. She was amazing. And I don't know how she found the strength to work the way that she did. But yeah, it was cool. But I was doing my own thing. So I mean, whenever she was putting me around some of the top minds in personal development in the world and some of the top salespeople in the world, I didn't really care because, I was just in a hurry to get back to my own thing. I mean, if they had social media back then, I would have probably been taking selfies and stuff like that. But I mean, I was not concerned with it at all. We went out to Aruba on a trip that she won, and, it was amazing. I wasn't even 21 yet, but I was, you only have to be 18 to drink there. So I was, showing my ass like nonstop the whole time we were there. We went to Phoenix, stayed at the South Point Resort, Phoenix, Arizona. We ate dinner at the Wrigley Mansion, like Wrigley chewing gum, so there was all sorts of cool stuff. And she was just trying her best to keep me alive. God bless her soul. But all I can say about that period of time with, combined from age, 12 or 13 to, 19, it was cool, but I was still not really trying to hear it.
Yeah, I get that. I hear that myself. That's because that's the way you're wired when you're like that. It's really quite interesting to hear it because these personal aspects of you are really, really nice. You're displaying the side of you that's sort of like listening, but not listening, aware, but not aware as you're coming forwards into your life, and that's just pretty awesome. I actually love it, in fact. Now you've developed into this professional salesman. You're going crazy, having a good time. You're taking on board all the good lifestyle. We did the same, and we blew all the money we made, and we made a lot, and we blew it all. Partying, I mean, all of it.
Thank God I don't look like what I put myself through, because I put myself in these situations. I started down that path not knowing all the stuff that I was going to be facing eventually. I started selling drugs to make a little bit extra money to get some shoes or some nice clothes or whatever. And, wound up in like the shadiest places in like Antioch, Tennessee, and Memphis and Indianapolis and Chicago, Illinois, and all these different places, surrounded by people that, I mean, just like murderers, drug dealers, just the worst people. And I say they're the worst people, but who knows? I mean, they could have been in a similar situation, that I was, is they were just looking to belong. They were actually decent people in their heart, but they had made some bad decisions. So I think the overall, premise to this story is it really doesn't matter where you come from. It really doesn't matter, if you're broke or if you have made some bad decisions in your life. It doesn't matter where you're at right now, that the next 2 years, 4 years of your life, from this point forward, can be dramatically different, a complete 180. And if you think about it like this, let's say that your life is a movie right now. Even if you're 60 years old right now, you're only 10 minutes into the movie. You get to determine what the rest of the movie is like and how it ends.
I love that. Now that's brilliant analogy, because you've now started to establish that in your life, and you've got the mentors, and your mother's your mentor as well, which is pretty awesome. I find that absolutely really, really, really cool. I noted that you went from being this high flyer and doing all these wonderful things, and then you took a sort of a dive in your life, and you lost your income, and a variety of things happened in your life. So and we get to a more interesting part again. So you're up and down like this roller coaster. But tell us a little bit more about this time in your life, please. That would be lovely.
A roller coaster, ain't it? So I'm assuming that you're talking about whenever there was a corporate restructuring with Combined, and I found myself going from about 20 grand a month to 20 grand a year.
Yeah.
So that was challenging because, I had trained tens of thousands of people how to be successful in life and how to be happy and, how to overcome obstacles and challenge and self-doubt and, all that sort of thing. I figured that I would put my resume out there and there'd be tons of companies. There'd be loads of companies just beating down my door with $1 million bills, right? And job offers. And that was around 2008 here in the States. The economy wasn't that great at that time. And I found out no one cared how many people I had trained how to be successful. And I wound up going into a factory. And I am not built for factory work, just so we're clear. I have never had a real job in my life. I had always been on my own time and, commission where I could make 5 grand in a day doing some stupid stuff or whatever it is. And going into a factory was very humbling, working 12 to 14 hour days, sometimes 7 days a week, for weeks and weeks. And it was wild. It was very humbling. I lost everything. And I felt very down on myself. And I had almost gotten to the point, I don't even want to say almost, I had gotten to the point where I'd given up hope. I honestly was kind of sort of excited about the prospect of standing on a street corner with a sign begging for money, because then any expectations anyone would have, including my own expectations, would be out the window. All the pressure would be off. I could just, a sign, please help, anything will help, just please. And that's where I was headed. And I was at my mom's house after I lost my own house and lost everything. And I was on her computer and I saw a guy on Facebook that I didn't know him. We had some mutual friends, and he was wearing a suit and tie. He had a microphone in his profile picture, and he just looked successful. It said Diamond Executive at such and such company. And I didn't know what the hell a Diamond Executive was. I didn't know what the company did, but I knew I was looking for something. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I knew I was looking for something. So I reached out to him, and he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He appeared to be busy, and he said, hey, listen, I'm actually out to dinner with the formulator of my company, but if I were to send you a 10-minute video to take a look at, when would you get a chance to check it out and give me your honest feedback? I was like, now. And so I checked it out. 10 minutes, 1 second later, I was back in his inbox, and that started my first exposure to the network marketing profession.
Amazing. I love that. I love the go-getters. So, and I'm going to use the old cliche go-getter, going for that, and you going for it, him being so cool, you going for it some more, because you know that this is your opportunity and you're grabbing your opportunity, which a lot of people won't do. They won't actually get in there and say, wow, that's an opportunity. But when opportunity comes knocking, it's all about us taking our actions as well. I absolutely love that part of the story for obvious reasons. Yeah. And so then obviously you've got him, this guy, this diamond exec guy, and things took off from there. And, it's quite serendipitous because you were using social media to do that as well. I mean, I read in part of your book that you're a big advocate of social media and the opportunities on there when everybody's naysaying and saying, oh, it's rubbish and it's this and it's that. I mean, I remember saying, you saying in that book how great it is to have the opportunities on social media, like that opportunity that you took. It's an amazing thing. And I was reading that thinking, wow, that's so awesome, Austin. You're thinking about that from that huge potential opportunity. You and I wouldn't be speaking if it wasn't for social media. It's amazing, isn't it? So I just absolutely love it. Okay, and then I was reading some more about this with this part in your life, and you learning your entrepreneurial skills and getting in with the networking marketing profession with this chap. What happened next for you from your point of view for the story? Because you were involved with a couple of things. You got with this guy Seth Fraser, who was teaching you some bits and pieces. So yeah, what happened next from your point of view, please? That would be nice.
Yeah. Wow. So whenever I first got involved in network marketing, I was better than some, worse than most. I was really bad though. I was trash. I ran off friends and family. I did really bad. And, my first company was a health and wellness company. I literally sold everything I had that was worth $1 just to join. And then the auto ship was $200 a month and everything. So I wasn't in it for very long, but I worked really hard. I just didn't know what I was doing. And then I joined another company, which was a services company, energy deregulation, home services. And what made the big difference was there was a guy that he had a system, just a system. Now, a system stands for save yourself time, energy, and money, right? And that's what we did with this system. We had a system. We could show anybody how to make $1,000 check their first week. And we just built an army of people doing that. And I got to the point where I was making a couple or a few $1,000s a week. So I was back, right? Mentally, I felt great. Things were great. And I played follow the leader with the wrong leader and wound up in another company. But thank goodness I was in another company at that time. I had just joined, and I became so frustrated because I got this taste of success again. I was like, I'm not going back. Okay, I'll die before I go back, right? To being broke, busted, and disgusted. I'm not doing it. And that's where I built the team of 34,000 people in 1 year. We actually did a week of nonstop Google Hangouts on the air, where 24 hours a day, me or someone from my team was there to do a presentation every hour on the hour and do Q&A and help people get signed up. Google Hangouts on the air only lasted for 8 hours. So what we did is we got a domain and we would take the Google Hangout link and redirect it to the domain. So people just went to the domain, and we changed it out every 7 hours or so. But we were doing presentations 24 hours a day for like a week. We did this, and we were just pushing super hard. And, got to the point where I was making more money than I'd ever made before in my entire life. And I flew out to Denver, Colorado, for the launch of a company, because a bunch of my buddies was going to be there. You mentioned one of them, Seth Frazier, was going to be there. And I was just going to hang out with these guys. Like, I was just hanging out with them. I got money. We're doing good. Let's party. Let's have some fun. And I wasn't saving any, because who does that, right? And so I flew out there, and it was crazy. I was expecting a $20-something thousand paycheck for the week, and it wound up being $277, if I remember correctly, $217, one or the other. And I got a call from the vice president, and he was like, "Don't panic, I'm like, I am panicked, what's going on?" And so the company basically is shut down, is for the most part, we'll just say that, that's what happened. And Seth was one of the first people that approached me, and that I actually opened up to, because we had already established a friendship. And I wound up taking a position with that company as a trainer, because I like training. I've always liked training, and I developed systems. That's the way my mind works, is systematic. And so I took a position as a trainer, and I took a field position and became one of their top earners as well. And it's just, at the time, it was the first CBD company ever. And CBD is all the craze now, but like 7 or 8 years ago, it was very difficult to build. Everyone thought we were getting people high and we were all going to jail, right? And so I wound up getting into a travel company with Seth. He was the CEO. And I just did it because I love Seth. And the travel company seemed fun. And so I put in 700 people my first week, 8,700 paid members the first 90 days, about 16,000 or so in the first 7 or 8 months. So we did well. And I got terminated for doing training for another company. And the owner said it was because of cross recruiting. And I didn't have a position in another company. So I'm very open about me being a trainer for the profession nowadays because of that. So everything that happens for you, not to you. And so now I'm very upfront about I love to train and coach for the entire profession.
I'm going to bring that in because I love this training and coaching. So one of the things that I really respect about you, and I'm talking very personally, is I love the way you almost cliche up very easy concepts. So I love these phraseologies. I love the training. I find it quite easy to remember, and I know that this is part of your personality, and your personality delivers this great training that we're privileged to be a part of, and that you have these great ways of delivering it. You obviously learned this as you've gone along, and I guess some of your personalities come out of your backstory, so you pulled the two things together. But you were training people in all sorts of places, like I said earlier about the Fortune 500 and great things like that. So tell us a little bit more about your training, because that is a huge part of my respect with you and how I work with you, obviously. So yeah, that would be lovely. Yes, tell us some more, please. That would be lovely.
Yeah, sure. I started training when I was 20. So whenever I was offered the position of a divisional sales instructor with Combined Insurance, I wasn't even 21 years old yet. I was 20. And, so I was teaching people, 50, 60, 70 years old, how to be successful in life and happy and fulfilled. And of course, to sell a lot of insurance. But then I also went on to different Fortune 500 companies and did outside sales consulting, and not just Fortune 500 companies, but like, furniture store, car sales, all sorts of different places hired me for that. I made a name for myself in Dallas for doing that, and then Kentucky. But, I got trained by multiple different trainers on effective teaching and training techniques. And so, a lot of people can be successful, right? And then they can't train people how to be successful. So I got trained on how to train, and then I got trained on how to train trainers. And so in network marketing, I had a guy that once told me, it's not about teaching a dog a new trick. It's about getting the dog to teach other dogs. And so that's one thing that has really helped me is not only do I know how to train people how to do what I do, I know how to train people how to train people. And that's really the magic of this business model, is duplication. It's not what you can do, it's what you can duplicate, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, very much. And that's something that we've got, as I said, the privilege of being involved with. Now, I know you value people. For me, again, a huge area. And I am talking a little bit about the relationship that I've established with you to understand, the rapport I have with you. But you value people, and you value people very, very, you've got a big heart and you value people. But where did you learn to have this connection with rapport and valuing and bringing on people? Was it through the training, or was it an aspect of your life, or how did you get to that point? Because it's a huge part of being Austin, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I know that it came from me learning to love myself.
Ah,
You know, I think that everything you do to or for someone else, you do to or for yourself. And I also think that anything that you like or dislike about anyone else somehow has a lot to say with what you like or dislike about yourself. And so I really had to go on this journey of self mastery, self discovery, self improvement, self healing, before I could get to the point where I could share my story. Because there was a point in time, not that long ago, that if you had brought up Corey, I would have just started crying. I would have just bust out crying. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't have talked about it. I wouldn't have talked about it, but I couldn't. If you had brought up Tina, the girl that from Charter Ridge that was shooting up, I would have just I would have busted out crying. I mean, there was so much. I remember I was hired to do a training in Indianapolis for another network marketing company like 8 years ago, 9 years, I don't even remember. And I just started crying whenever it got time for me to share my story, and I couldn't even talk. And so there was a long journey, almost a decade long journey of me being conscious of just, I need to discover what's going on inside of myself. I need to heal. I need to master my emotions. And so, like I said, I mean, that's about a decade long journey of every single day, personal development, meditation, just really trying to gain this mastery over myself. So, yeah, I love you, your husband, Nick, your son, Liam, everybody, because I've come to the point where I love myself and I can share my story now. Um, Not so concerned with what people will think of me, although I would like for people to think the best. Not so concerned with what people will think of me, because I've got good news. Is 100 years from now, you, me, and everyone that we know will be dead. So it won't matter. It won't matter what people think of me. You know what I'm saying? So I can share myself very transparently and love on everybody. Because I'll wrap up by saying this, because I know I take the scenic route in saying things sometimes. But all emotions, I believe, come from one of two places, either a root of fear or a root of love. And if I'm conscious of my emotions and there's something that I feel doesn't come from a place of love, I automatically become aware of that, become conscious of it, and I try to shift to a vibration of love. I try to shift to a place where, okay, I recognize this uh, thing that comes from the root emotion of fear, and where does that come from, and I try to overcome that. It's constant.
It's amazing. Now, you and I said about being kindred spirits. That's what I meant at the earlier stages of that, because it's exactly what I've done in my lifetime and how I feel, literally. It took me a long time to establish myself in this area and to find myself worthy or love myself in any capacity. And for that then to translate to other people with me sharing, just literally just loving and sharing, no matter where they're at. It took me a long time to get there. So I totally and utterly get this one. And I'm listening to you and I'm feeling like warm and cool, and I'm thinking that's totally the magic. To me, that's one of the massive Austin icons. If they had a little thing of icons of Austin, it would be love. And I think that there's not enough love in the world. And being female, I suppose I can say that us giving people the permission is tremendous. Yeah, and you do give people permission to be themselves and to come forward.
I think there's enough love in the world, but you got to think about the story that we've shared. I was, I was full of love whenever I joined a gang, whenever I was selling drugs, whenever I was robbing people. But it's just like, somebody that's obese. There's a six pack under there, right? But it's covered up by blubber and fat, right? So I think there's plenty of love. We just have to figure out how to access it. And there's so much hurt and trauma that covers up the love that it can be hard to get to.
Exactly. I absolutely love that. That is so, so cool. Like everything else you share, it's a proper lesson. I mean, there's loads of wonderful tidbits, gems, cool bits in here for people to pick up, take with them, as there always is with you, Austin. And I would recommend people dig into some of your other material that's on the internet. But there's so much here. There's so much value with this and giving back and all of the good things that the payback qualities that you use in your life. Now, you've obviously worked a lot on helping people mold themselves into better people. I know that you've talked a lot about that. You do talk about that in the book that I mentioned earlier, which is the acting classes, how you've molded people to take the best bits from other people and then develop them within themselves. As one of my absolute, it's a tremendous lesson in its own. I mean, obviously you've done that with yourself. You said about, I read in the book about your appearance and about aspects of your personality that you took, and one day you looked at W. Clement Stone and thought, oh, hang on, I've gotten a lot like this guy with this, this. Tell us a little bit more about that, because that's a big lesson for people to take good bits and use those within themselves, because we're talking about self-love, understanding themselves. So yeah, perhaps you could share a little bit more about that, please. That would be really great.
Yeah, sure. And I hope you don't mind. I'm rolling up my sleeves here because I've got some custom clothing that just came in today, and so whenever I get done here, I'm going to go over and see my guy and get my stuff and get everything fitted. So I'm excited about that. But
So, I got to digress. I got because I'm a digressy. Go around the, what I can't remember the expression you use. I go around the houses, get to the end was a good story.
all right.
Yeah, that's me all over. But the bit about this out. Have you had custom clothes, like tailored clothes made for you? Yeah, because we call it tailoring in the UK. But like tailored. Hey, that's so nice. Have you had some suits, shirts? What?
Showroom. So he's got a showroom that I can go to. I can get custom duffel bags, shoes, suits, shirts, slacks, shorts, t-shirts, anything that I want whatsoever. He's got thousands upon thousands of swatches and colors and fabrics and just different stuff. And so, I've got some suits, and I just got a really nice shirt that should be in today, and all sorts of different stuff. So,
That's
you know,
fantastic.
is some shoes, because he even has it to where you can pick the different colors on the bottom of your shoes. So he's got like every color of the rainbow you can have on the bottom of your shoe. And so it's really nice. And it's a good buddy of mine that he just started doing this full time not long ago. And so I'm very happy to support him. It's not the cheapest, but it's nice to have stuff that is absolutely fitted just specifically to you, and it's exactly how you want it. So there's pain in the process, but there's pleasure in the payoff, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I enjoy.
I like that. And tell, of course, we're gonna digress, because we're gonna wrap shortly. But let's digress on a little bit about the lifestyle, because hey, that's my thing. I think, oh, lifestyle's nice. So you got this wonderful. You live in this lovely condo, but I know you've got other plans with a house, and you've been to some amazing vacations. But let's talk about the house and some of the cool things, because everybody likes a nice place to live, a pad, a nice environment. Yeah, you're living in a pretty nice place now, but I know you've got other plans. Perhaps would you be okay to share that with us?
Sure. I mean, I'm okay to share anything whatsoever, good, the bad, the indifferent. So back in 2017, my wife and I we bought a really nice house on the golf club of the Bluegrass on Golf Club Drive. It was our address was on Golf Club Drive, and we paid cash for that. It was it was a $1.4 million home. It was beautiful, right there on the golf club. Golf. So we hired one of Elton John's interior decorators to come do the interior for us. It was stunning. It was so beautiful. It was our dream, but it was over an hour away from any family, and I'm big on family. She's big on family. So we made the decision to sell the house. We moved closer, and we downsized to a 7,000 square foot house with spiral staircases, home theater room, just all this cool stuff. And it was really nice, but it was an older home. It was about 12 years old, and there was so much work that we wanted, and it just became a burden. And we thought this really isn't what we want. Okay, and so we decided to sell a lot of stuff, move into a condo, which we love it here. It's all we need. It's beautiful, and then later this year we're planning on building a neighborhood. This is how my mind works. Okay, I thought to myself, I want to build a house. Okay, a contemporary style home, but I hate dealing with HOA. I hate dealing with the homeowners association. I've never met one that I liked. They got all these rules, and I don't like rules to begin with. And so how do I get away with not having an HOA? Well, I'll have to buy some land out in the middle of nowhere. I don't want to do that. I want some neighbors. I don't want to be secluded. I've got kids. They're still young, 10 and 14. So how do I get around this? And I really don't want to pay like $2 million or more for my dream home. How do I get around paying so much? And so I thought about it. I was like, build a neighborhood. Well, how do I do that? That seems like it's a large undertaking. So I got a builder. I got a realtor. I got 2 investors, and I got it worked out to where we can build a whole neighborhood, and I won't even have to pay for my own home initially. So it's just, that's how my mind works. So I mean,
Brilliant. I love it.
build a home, let's build a neighborhood, and we need about 40 acres, 34 acres or more. We're going to take 4 acres, excavate it, build a man-made lake. You can charge more for lakefront property. We're going to take 14 to 16 foot cypress trees, build them, put them all around the perimeter of the neighborhood. And we're going to call it Cypress Lakes, is what we're anticipating, on calling it. And so we've got, we'll make a lot of money from building the neighborhood, and it'll be my ideal neighborhood.
That sounds amazing. Now you live within your mind and the constructs of your imagination, and you build this out. And as I'm listening to you, I'm involved. So I'm involved in that whole laying out, that fantastic, how it's going to be. It's really there, and I love that. That's so cool. And your mind working like that, so cool.
Yeah, to me, that already exists. So an interesting story is whenever they were breaking ground at Disney World, someone turned to Walt Disney's wife and said, it's a shame that Walt couldn't see this. And she says, actually, if Walt didn't see this, none of us would be here. And so it all starts in the mind. Visualization is so, and it's not just visualization, it's just beginning with the end in mind. And to me, that neighborhood is just as much a reality as this microphone. It's just, we haven't built it yet, but yet is the operative word.
I totally agree, and that's a big strength of yours. It was all a visualization. I mean, some of the things that have happened, I talked to Anne about this, ironically, but things we visualized, things we had around us, that lifestyle that we've gotten is it's not like yours, but it's not bad. And we've had that here way before it came into being. And I am such a big believer in that. And you sharing that story is just so powerful. I mean, if people could only just get that into their heads, they'd be so much happier. And with this sharing this, I'm hoping today that these little pieces will just slot in with people, and they'll think, hey, hang on just a minute, I could do that. Now, I'm assuming that, with all of these people around you and all of these wonderful mentors, they obviously led you to these understandings and these perceptions of how you can live your life, and you're living it. You're living the dream, right? And so, you've gone from one point to another, and your story is quite magnificent. We sort of skipped over a few pieces I had in here. So like, whoa, let's just go along nicely. But you actually have retired and come back to work, and you've rocked with the most amazing people. I know that you've spent time with known established people who have got their own phenomenal backgrounds. Could you name some of the people you've been around, or any incidents or times, even at the time you explained where you were in Aruba, or some of the the nice sort of we like the lifestyle and the people thing?
Network marketing is an amazing place. Obviously you can make a great deal of money in network marketing, but it's been referred to as personal development with a compensation plan. And that's so true. Just how I've grown as a human being because of network marketing and the people in it and the environment and everything. It's just, that's priceless. But just as good as that are the people that I've met along the way. And so the last company I was building in the field, I thought to myself, man, I'd like to go to Aruba again, because mom and we went, whenever she was with Combined, I was a teenager. And I thought, man, I'd really like to go to Aruba. And then I thought, man, I'd like to go with some of my friends. I was like, you know what? I made some friends in this new company. I'd like to go with some of my friends from this company. I think I'm going to run a contest. So I put together a contest for the top 10, right? And I designed it so it was a good probability some of my friends would probably win this. And because a lot of them were the top producers, not all of them. But it wound up being so disruptive to the company that the company took over the contest and extended it to 20 people instead of 10 and agreed to split the cost with me, which they split the cost of some of it with me. But I rented 2 mansions right on the beach in Aruba, hired a private chef to cook for us. We got ATV excursions all over the island. We went skydiving. I got us VIP at the hottest club on the island. I got us dinner on the beach at a restaurant called Moomba. It was really, really, really nice. We flew in my videographer, Corey, my buddy, Corey Williams. Love him to death. We've been working together for years. He does, anytime I go to a speaking engagement, a lot of times you'll find Corey with me shooting video, taking pictures. I love him. Corey Williams with a K. So we flew him out. He went skydiving with us. He stayed. And so we also flew out Ray Higdon. Ray's a great guy, good friend and a great trainer. And so we flew him out and he stayed in the mansion with me and a couple other guys. Me and him together, we did 10 hours of straight training, just straight, like we had food in there and everything. And just me and him together, stand and deliver style, 10 hours straight for this group of 20 leaders. And afterwards, he hung out and had dinner and me and him went skydiving together. I had never been, he had never been. He almost got sick. I blacked out. So,
because the fear of flying, but the fear of jumping out of planes, but you actually did. You actually got over that fear and jumped out the plane, didn't you?
Over it, but I forced myself to do it. You feel the fear and do it anyway. Never let a thing like fear stop you. Fear has been more of a compass telling me what I should be doing rather than what I shouldn't be doing. But yeah, that was a fun trip. That trip changed people's lives forever. And I think all 20 of those people that were on that trip with me, I think every single one of them are now multiple 6 or 7 figure earners, or, they're happy. They've made a bunch of money since and they've retired, or, all of them. I mean, it changed everybody's life.
I just love that story. I've heard the whole Monty of the story now, so that's really good. I mean, the whole thing about that, and I only pieced it together that you overcame that jumping out the plane thing when you were on that trip. Yeah.
One thing that I think is funny is Ray which if you're watching this live and you're in the network marketing profession, chances are Ray Higdon. Ray is not broke, right? He's got money, right? He's doing well for himself. And we were in the casinos in Aruba, and I'm sitting here playing like several $1,000s a hand, right? I'm sitting here with like cash and throwing like, $2,000-$3,000, and he's betting like $50 and $100, and he's like, yeah, I brought $200 to play. And so Ray was cracking me up. He is definitely way more conservative than I was, and I've come around to now be more conservative. But I thought it was funny. I would have to kind of, if he were here, pick at him a little bit for bringing like $50 and $100 to play on the casinos when I'm sitting there being stupid still. It's just, I spent so much in 2016, 17, and 18 just, I don't know what I was going through. I bought watches. I had like $1.8 million in watches at one point in time. It's just ridiculous. Much more conservative now.
Yeah, I think you learn to do that as you get older. But I mean, having told you the story we had, we spent a lot of money on all sorts of things, and yeah, it's some and some. But I love all that, and you still got this great lifestyle. But more importantly, you've got a great personal self-development. You're prepared to help other people develop themselves, which is the awesome part. I mean, you're a vice president of a very successful company, but with the heart of a leader. I mean, I remember you saying about alpha leader qualities within the book that I read. But as a leader, you're prepared to lead from the front, and you demonstrate to people what they should be like, how they should be as a person, how they should, project themselves so that people understand that they can lead too, which is what you said, which is fantastic. Can you just we wrap up on that? I'd like to wrap up on the fact that you bring on leaders and you bring on people. And if you had to sort of give anybody a message about who they could become, what they could do, where they could take things, how would you put that into words, and what would you say to them?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, Albert Einstein was thought to have learning disabilities when he was a child, and turns out he was kind of smart, you know. I'm just a ninth grade high school dropout, factory working father of two from Kentucky that didn't know if he could make it or not, but I tried. Here I am. We mentioned Ray. He lost his ass in real estate. Was broke as all get out, and then now he's earning a multiple six-figure a month income from a Facebook group, and all sorts of other money from different, and he's happy, and he's influenced so many other people to be happy and fulfilled. And if you hear these stories, and some people still just don't grasp it, that it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're down on yourself, if you're overdrafted in your bank account and have nothing to start with, the key is get started. Start working on yourself. Have a little faith. Raise your belief level. If you don't have people around you, if you don't have mentors like I did, I didn't have anybody around me whenever it came time for me to have to just make a big change, for me to quit with the pity party and everything like that. So I surrounded myself with people on YouTube, every day. I was looking up people like Tony Robbins and Napoleon Hill and stuff like that. And, to this day, I still am a bigger student today than I probably ever have, looking at people like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Tom Bilyeu on impact theory, and Jay Shetty, and Sadhguru, and all these different people. I mean, I love that stuff. I'm still on a constant journey of self-discovery and self-mastery and self-improvement, because weeds grow naturally in a garden. You have to constantly, feed. You have to weed and feed. So my thoughts would be, in closing, is it doesn't matter where you're at, or if you don't have a money to start, or whatever you're going through. It is a fact, and it's almost cliche, that if you can conceive it and you can believe it, then you can achieve it. And I know that that sounds cliche to some of us because we've heard it so many times, but it's just a fact. If you can wrap your mind around what, hey, this is exactly what I want, and you can vividly picture that, you can really capture that in your mind, and you can just have some faith, and you take the first step. I think it was Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Someone else said that an entire forest can be found in one acorn. So it all starts with that first step. So, I would say that, guys, just got to get started. Walt Disney, we mentioned earlier, he said the best way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing.
I love it.
I made a post today on Facebook, matter of fact, talking just about that. It's funny that we're mentioning this, because today on social media, I I put up this picture just talking about
yeah, I love that. Yeah, I remember that post. It's so powerful.
Greater than perfection. Action is greater than perfection. You know what I'm saying? So it was a great post. But you know, like I said, doesn't matter where you've been, what mistakes you made, where you're at. You can be, I mean, whatever you want to be. If you want to be a ninth grade high school dropout, factory working father, from Kentucky, like I was, or you want to be the #1 income earner in 3 separate companies, multimillionaire who's helped retire over 600 families from their full-time employment, sought after authority for training and coaching, like I am today, or whatever. You can be that.
I love it. Austin, do you know you're the epitome of these wonderful things? I mean, today you've taught us so many lessons in your story, and all underpinned with value. All underpinned with value. None of your life has been a waste in your mind. You've made the maximum opportunities out of what's happened to you. You then brought that knowledge forward for us all to appreciate and learn and absorb. You're highly accessible as a person, so if anybody wants to look at your posts, as we just saw, they can, and they can have that value of being around you. You're there for people when they need you, and I think that's an incredible thing. And I really wanted to emphasize that today, some of the lessons you've learned, how easily you share them, and you share them with heart, and more importantly, you literally frame everything so it's rememberable. As you went through that and you got into your stride there, and I'm thinking, wow, that's just so good. I can remember that. That's cool. And in a good way that I can program my mind. And I think that's what we all need to do a little bit, just get some of that flavor. I've had an absolute blast with you. I always enjoy your company. I can't say I don't, because I do. I thoroughly enjoy you. And we've had a wonderful interview. Thank you, Austin, for your time.
Take care. I appreciate you.
Yeah,
Have a good one.